Today we're going to talk about writing the equation of a line in slope-intercept form given the slope and the y-intercept. So first of all, let's just get some vocabulary out of the way. First of all, what is a linear line? We're talking about linear equations. You write linear equations in slope-intercept form. A linear equation just means a straight line. So if I were to draw you a picture of that, I would just draw a straight line. Okay, that's a linear equation. It's a straight line. A line that goes straight up and down, that's a linear equation. A line that goes straight across, that's a linear equation because it's a straight line. Now, if I were to draw a line that looks like this, that's not linear. That is not a linear equation. A linear equation needs a straight line. So let's write not linear, that line right there. Okay? Let's talk some other things. We're going to talk in a second about slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form comprises of two things. It comprises of the slope, which you should already know, and the y-intercept. So, just a reminder, what do we know about slope? We know that slope is m. We also know that slope is rise over run. Think in your head right now, what else do you know about slope? You know that it's the change in y over change in x. And we've also learned that there's an equation we can use for slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Any of these things we can use to find slope, and we can find slope on this graph. The next thing we need to know is the y-intercept. And the y-intercept, the definition of that is the y-coordinate of an ordered pair where the line crosses the y-axis. The y-coordinate of an ordered pair where a line crosses the y-axis. So let's just think about that for a second. The y-intercept is going to tell us where on the y-axis, if this is the y-axis right here, do these lines cross. So I'm going to use this line right here as an example. So let's go ahead and get these other lines out of the way so that it's really, really clear to see. We're going to erase this one. Let's erase all these lines. Okay. So let's use this line as an example. If we look at this line, we'll notice that on the y-axis, which is right here, this line crosses at 1, 2. If I were to write that as an ordered pair, that ordered pair is 0, 2. So what it means by the y-coordinate of an ordered pair, it means where this line crosses the y-coordinate, so this is x, this is y, the y-coordinate is your y-intercept, or b, what we call. It crosses at positive 2. We'll talk later more about that, but right now I just want you to be able to visualize what is the y-intercept. Alright, so how do we write an equation in slope-intercept form? The equation for slope-intercept form, which is very, very, very important that you know, is y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. Let's talk about what these things mean. We know that m is the slope. We just learned that b stands for the y-intercept. This y and this x are going to represent a point on your line, which we'll talk more about later. What I want you to know right now is that this y will always come first. Always comes first. And it is always alone. If we are in slope-intercept form, this y needs to be alone. This mx plus b is always going to be on the right side. And it will be together like mx plus b if we are in slope-intercept form. Alright, so this is not written down for you, so take a minute and write this down, and then I'll explain what it means. Really quickly, I just want to talk about how do we write slope? How do we write y-intercept? So your slope, it can be written as a whole number like a 2 or a negative 2. It can be written as a fraction like 1/3. Or it can be written as an infraction like 9/2. And I want to show you why that is. If we're dealing with slope, and we know that slope is rise over run, we make our slope triangle. If we know that the slope is a whole number, we can figure that out. We can go, oh, up 2 over 1. If we know slope is a fraction, we can do that too. We can go up 1 over 3, up 1 over 3. If slope is improper, we can go do that too. We could do up 9 over 2, up 9 over 2. We do not want to write slope as a decimal, like something like 0.5, or a mixed number like 1.5. And the reason is, how do you graph a slope of 0.5? Right? That's hard. We don't know how much to rise and how much to run. Same with a mixed number, like 1 and 1/2. We don't know what the rise is. We don't know what the run is. So we want to keep slope as a whole number, a fraction, or an improper fraction. Y-intercept's a little bit different. We can write it as a whole number, so again, like a 2. We can write this as a decimal, like 0.5. And we can write this as a fraction, meaning a fraction like 1/3. You do not want to write improper fractions for the y-intercept or mixed numbers. And here's the reason. If I asked you what the y-intercept, if I gave you an improper fraction like 9 over 5, where does 9 over 5 fall on the y-intercept? That's hard to figure out. But if I turned 9 over 5 into a decimal, I get 1.8. That's a little bit easier. Let's say this is 1, this is 2. That's, oh, it's right. It's right about there, right? There's my y-intercept. Same with the mixed number. If I gave you something like 1 and 7/5 and I said, find the y-intercept, you would be a little confused. But if you changed 1 and 7/5 into a decimal, you would get 2.4. And normally we wouldn't see this improper fraction like this, right? So let's actually make this a little bit easier. Let's change this to like 1 and 2/5, because we probably wouldn't see that. Let's change 1 and 2/5 into a decimal. 1 and 2/5 as a decimal would give you 1.4. That's going to be a little bit easier to graph than 1 and 2/5. Okay, so how do we write this? So here's our first example. It says write the equation of a line. So we know we want to write an equation of a line. Whenever we see a phrase like equation of a line, you should go ahead and write out what that looks like. An equation of a line is going to look like y equals mx plus b. And you need two things to make the equation of a line. You need m and you need b. So now I'm going to read and see what does it give us. It tells us a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 4. Okay, so a slope of 3. So slope is m, so I know that m is 3, and y-intercept is 4, and y-intercept stands for b, so I know that the y-intercept is b. So I have been given both the things I need to write an equation. My equation needs to look like y equals mx plus b. So now I'm going to plug in my numbers. Your y and your x stay. So y and x stay. So I'm going to write y equals, m is 3, x stays, plus b, which is 4. Now before I move on, I'm going to double check. I don't have any forms here that I can't have. Whole numbers are good for both. So my equation in y-intercept form is y equals 3x plus 4. Let's do another example. It says write the equation of a line. So I know that my equation is going to look like y equals mx plus b. I know I need two things to do that. I need an m and I need a b. So let's see what they give us. It says given m is 1/2, so m is 1/2. And given that b is -5, so b is -5. So if I'm going to write my equation, y equals mx plus b, remember your y and your x stay, so y equals m is 1/2 x plus -5. Now, after a while, you'll notice what happens when you have a negative intercept. But let's just see what happens. we have 1/2 x. And I want to talk really quickly about plus a negative. Adding a negative is the same as subtracting. We don't want to write plus a negative. We should just write minus 5. Double check that the forms are correct. Is this okay for a m? Yep. Is this okay for a b? Yes. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 5. Okay, let's do another example. Write the equation of a line. So I know my equation needs to look like y equals mx plus b. I know I need to find m, and I know I need to find b. And let's see if they give them to us. The slope-intercept form, given that b is -1. So b is -1, and that m is 0. M is 0. So let's write out our equation. I know I want it to look like y equals mx plus b. Y is going to stay. My m is 0. X stays. My b is -1. And we just realized we don't want to write plus -1. We're just going to write -1. Now, this 0x, 0 times any number is what? Let's try it. Okay, let's say x is 1. 0 times 1 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. No matter what number we put in for x, this will always be 0. So we are going to not write this. If you end up with 0x, there are no x's. So we can cancel that, and we're left with y equals -1. Let's do one more example. So given that the slope is -1 and the y-intercept is 0, what is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form? Oh, slope-intercept form, that's going to look like y equals mx plus b. I know I need m and I know I need b, so let's go back. Given that the slope is -1, so slope, m, is -1, and the y-intercept is 0, b is 0. Now I know I want it to look like y equals mx plus b. Remember, your y and your x stay, so y equals m, which was -1x, comes down, and b was plus 0. Now, it's just like before. We have a plus 0. Do we need to write plus 0? No. We're just going to write y equals -1x. Okay, we're going to do one more example. It says write the equation of a line. So I know I want to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So I know it's going to look like y equals mx plus b. I know I need m. I know I need b. With a slope of 0.75, so my slope is 0.75, and a y-intercept of, let's say a y-intercept of 3. All right, so my b is 3. Now, I'm going to rewrite my equation, y equals mx plus b. My m is 0.75 x. My b is plus 3. Now before I finish and I go on, I'm going to look, okay, is my y-intercept okay? Is a whole number okay for the y-intercept? Yes. Is a decimal okay for the slope? No. So I need to change this into a fraction. So 0.75 as a fraction is 3/4. So the correct formatting on this is to write 3/4 x plus 3. Sometimes it's easier if before you write this over here, you just look at your numbers here and check that they're correct. Okay, at this point, go ahead and try these 3 practice problems. When you're ready, resume the video and see if you got them correct. All right, this first one, we should have had y equals 3x minus 3. Number 2 should have been y equals, you would have gotten y equals 0.75x plus 4, but we can't leave our slope as a decimal, so we should have had y equals 3/4 x plus 4. And then our last one, write the equation of a line with a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 2. That would have been y equals 0x minus 2. Remember, we don't need the 0x. So y equals -2. If you are still a little bit confused, go back, watch the video again, and see if you can realize what is getting hung up.